There we go. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Off-Road Hub. My name is Ken, and today I'm going to continue my solid axle swap on my 2010 Toyota FJ Cruiser. We've got the Dana 60 pulled out from underneath the FJ because we've got a bunch of stuff we need to get installed on it, and all that's over here on this table. We got our steering knuckles while we're doing steering. So we got, our knuckles with our TMR high steer arms and our PSC full hydro setup that we have to get put into the mount there. And then after all that's set up, we got to get the panhard bar on and then reconnect it all underneath the FJ and see how it all fits together. So first things first, we got to try to fit all this stuff onto the axle. So as you know, I pulled these axles out of a junkyard, so I've got new lower ball joints. As I mentioned in a previous video and installation, I did these upper ball joint eliminators. So yeah, I'm not using the old junkyard ball joints. This is a new Moog ball joint. And let's get these pressed into both knuckles. Get our snap ring on there. And it even comes with a new nut. So now this, well, that goes on there somehow. There we go. So now this knuckle and the other one, I did the ball joint in, are all set to go onto the axle. So here's that brass bushing for the upper ball joint eliminator. Saw me pound it into the other side. These are from Busted Knuckle Off-Road. You can see it's got a flat spot here that corresponds with this so it doesn't turn. And hopefully it pounds into this C without any drama. So the hole for the brass sleeve was a little bit tight on this axle, and so the brass sleeve compressed a little bit, and so this doesn't really want to go in there very easily anymore. It will if you pound it in, but that's too tight. So I'm gonna hone it out a little bit. Hopefully that works. All right, after quite a bit of honing, I think we've got it. So that looks a lot better than it did before. All right, so we got our knuckles on here. That's cool. So we started placing this ram here, and we've realized that this ram mount is too high. And also these cutouts here for the ram mount are too small, and so it just sets the thing too high. Also, being too high, I mean, when you turn your wheel in like that, you end up with some pretty extreme angles on the tie rods. So what we're going to do is heavily modify this this ram mount. We're going to cut off the front here and then build some totally new mounting surfaces inside. It's going to get the ram closer to the axle and get it lower. And hopefully that works. All right. So, all right, guys. Well, you can see we've made some drastic reductions to that Artec ram mount that was on here. This is just sitting here, don't worry. And then I made up this cardboard pattern. This is going to roughly be what the new ram mount's going to look like. I'll be able to reinforce it from the truss back here, and also eventually I'll stick a bar across the bottom to give it some rock protection. So that puts the ram in really good line with the tie rods. So yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction, or at least a right direction. All right, we turned the cardboard into steel finally, and we got it clamped up here, and I'm gonna get it tacked up, and then we'll get the hydro rim tacked up on here. Then we'll put it back under the vehicle and make sure it's gonna fit. But that's basically it. I'll make some kind of round off the edges and make it look a little better, but for now I'm just gonna get it tacked up, and we'll make sure that it's gonna work under there. All right, so let's take a look and see how this setup fits under the FJ. It fits pretty well, I think. The axle's actually sticking out pretty far toward the driver's side right now, just because it's extremely hard to move. It's extremely heavy. But if we look under here, we can see there's plenty of clearance. So it's actually gonna go that way. So these lines aren't going to be in the way because they're actually way over to the side. And if they were in the way, I can point them up more. But yeah, plenty of room up here. Plenty of room up here. There's obviously not going to be as much up travel in the front axle. That's just a fact of life. But I think we're doing well. So now I know I've got plenty of room to add some rock protection to the front of that mount so that my hydro mount doesn't get beat up on the rocks. All right, well, I've been fabbing up this this little guard. That's 1/4-inch wall DOM tubing. And that's gonna go on the hydro mount here in front of the hydro ram to prevent things from hitting it. All right, guys, well, in the middle of doing this video, Ken from Oregon, he had to go home. He was a huge help. Thank you, Ken, for coming out. That was totally awesome to meet you and get to know you. And today I've got someone local, Jesse. He lives here in Rexburg, and he's going to give me a hand today for a little bit, and hopefully we can get some stuff done.
Oh yeah.
All right, and that's what this looks like. I got it mostly welded up here, so that will protect the steering ram, and we'll get that on there right now, and then we'll get this axle back under the FJ and make sure it all fits again. All right, there's what it looks like before we slide it back under the vehicle. We'll get this under there and then continue getting the steering set up. I'm really glad Jesse is here for this because this axle, as I think I mentioned before, weighs a ton. I'm pretty sure after I get the knuckles and the brakes and the axles and the wheels and tires and everything back on it, I bet you this thing will be close to 1,000 pounds. Oh yeah, that's a lot easier with help.
I'll bet.
All right, well Jesse and I got that axle back under there, no problem. It was super easy because Jesse's super strong, so it was really easy, surprisingly. So it's centered under there, and we got the links hooked back up, and all three of them. And so now we'll just get the steering knuckles back on the axle, and then we're going to make some tie rods. So I went to build some tie rods and I ran into a bit of an issue, but don't worry, I think I have a solution. Well, I know I have a solution. But anyways, so here are our tie rod ends, heim joints, and I have these misalignment spacers, and then I have a bolt that goes through the steering arm there. So the misalignment spacers are there to take up the gap between, obviously this is narrower than this, right? So you need spacers in there. So I ordered 7/8 heim joints, and there's a lot of numbers thrown around when you're ordering this stuff. Anyways, so this is a 3/4 bolt. These are 3/4 holes in the heim joint, and that is a 3/4 hole in the spacer right here. The problem is that this is a 7/8 shank there, so it won't go into the 3/4 hole, obviously. So these misalignment spacers are the wrong size for this heim joint. So I've spent a little while figuring out what I'm gonna do, and I went to a couple different websites, Rough Stuff, Specialties, Ballistic, trying to figure out how am I gonna come up with a solution for this. So Rough Stuff has just spacers that are the right height for this with a 3/4 inch bore, which I may still order, but what I decided to do, since this has a 3/4 bore, but I don't need the center part, I'm just cutting out this part so that I can just use the spacer portion. The only issue is that it's really hard to cut these because they're really small, and it's hard to cut them in the bandsaw without, chopping off a finger. So I got to hold them with pliers, and it's hard to get a really exact cut. So I still might order those spacers from Rough Stuff, but this will get us through for now, and I'll just use these as spacers, and that should work for now. One problem with cutting those misalignment spacers, it creates sharp edges. I cut my finger. Blood, sweat, and tears. Just to clarify, I cut my finger on the spacer itself, which I had created a sharp edge on, not on my bandsaw or anything like that. Don't worry, I'm being fairly safe. So for those of you who haven't really had your hands on a full hydro setup before, let me just show you really quick how the tie rod situation works on one of these. So on the inside, on the ram there, you've got this threaded portion, and onto that goes this clevis right here. There's a big old bolt that goes through here and bolts onto the part that I just showed you under the vehicle. And then for your tie rod connection, you take a heim joint and two of these little spacers, This is a little tricky. And then you just stick it in here, just like so. And then, let's see, this bolt goes right in here. Just like that. Trying to get all my spacers lined up here. And then there's actually threads on this side. So that threads through there, just like that. And then there's a little nut, a lock nut that goes on this side. That all tightens down, and there you go. You've got your inner tie rod end. That's basically what the inner tie rod on this system consists of. All right, guys, I got my tie rods on there, and to get the length for the tie rods, you just gotta measure from here to here, with this being straight, of course, perfectly aligned, and also having the ram centered. So we did all that, and then I measured from here to here, and the same on the other side, right over here. So I've got my tie rod lengths now, which are different than each other because the ram is just a little bit off center in the vehicle, but that's okay. The driver's side tie rod is going to be about almost 2 inches longer than the passenger side, but that's okay. All right, so these are just like the 3 links, the links underneath the vehicle, pretty much. You got a bung with a thread in it there, and that just goes in there like that, and just like that. These are like tiny little links that go underneath the vehicle. So, and they're super hot right now. So I'll get these welded on, or at least tacked on for now, and we'll get them on the vehicle. All right, guys, well, there it is. We got the steering ram in there with our tie rods on. The angles, I think, are good. The tie rods are pointing toward the front a little bit from the ram, which the internet told me that was pretty good. Someone on the internet said that was pretty good or okay. So I'm happy with it for now. I think it'll be great. So it looks pretty cool too. Of course, I'm gonna have to paint all this stuff, but there it is, all set up. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. I didn't get to the front panhard bar in this one. We'll get to that next time, along with the front coilovers. And with that, the vehicle is gonna be super close to getting onto its own wheels and tires. That is awesome. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Thanks so much for Jesse coming over today and helping me out, and of course for Ken from Oregon coming and helping me out. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Ken. If we take a look at our checklist here, so we've got our front 3 links are done. We've got half of our front steering done because we got the tie rods and the ram mounted, so I'll just give that half of an X there because we accomplished quite a bit on the front steering. Yeah, with that, like I said, we're getting really close. Pretty exciting. It's starting to look like a vehicle again almost. It's almost got places to put wheels and tires again. Really close, guys. So if you enjoyed this one, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, so I can join you every Monday and Thursday with new content, and we'll see you next time.